There we go. And we're live. Good evening, everybody, wherever you might be. It's rather, well, late-ish if you're on the East Coast, about 10 o'clock, but everywhere else, it's not so bad. I'm joined today by Mr. Aaron Sparrow himself. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. I can't complain. I mean, I could, but nobody cares.
Yeah, well.
Well, like I say on Wes's show, the horrors persist, and so do I.
I actually like that phrase.
Yeah.
That's a good one, actually. I like that. And we are also joined by Drew here, who's first time on the channel. How you doing?
Yeah, doing well, man. Thanks for having me. It's been a day of relaxation here, and I'm enjoying it.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
No.
A day of relaxation for Drew means that he only wrote 8 scripts.
Oh, he's one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll be like, hey, read this script. And I'm like, okay. And I'll start it. And it's like 2 days later. And I'm like halfway through it, working my way through it. And then he's like, here's 3 more.
Yeah. Hey, what's going on, Pope Metallica? It's good seeing you, buddy.
Oh yeah, so I gotta retweet out the link, let people know that we're live.
Yep. These two fine gentlemen are here for a particular reason today. Note the art behind Aaron himself there.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
nice Kenneth Roquefort piece. I can't believe that Kneel Before Doomface has a Roquefort cover. Like, what a dream come true. Drew actually got the ball rolling on that. It was pretty great.
Yeah, what can I say? I practically raised Ken's kids. So hey, you owe me a favor.
Hey, Slender.
Is that true? Is that a true story?
No, I made that up.
I was like, because at this point, I would not be surprised. Like any kind of like story that you came out with, like I'd be like, this is just part of the mystery of Drew, like all the things that he's done and experienced, and every now and then he'll be telling a story and it'll just come out, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, well, I guess it's a sign of a good writer.
You were on SEAL Team 6. How did you never mention this?
Never asked. No one ever asks these things.
You usually just go up to people and be like, hey, were you a part of a secret covert ops? I mean, I do, but that's just me.
Well, so tell them what you got going on, Aaron.
So either at the end of this month or the beginning of next month, we're going to be launching Kneel Before Doomface. That's going to be the campaign to finish up this book that Renzo Rodriguez and Oscar Carreno and I are working on. With some backup stuff by James Silvani if we hit some stretch goals. We've got just some amazing cover art assembled for this campaign. It is the story of a villain from the 1980s that was banished, and now he's returned in the year 2024 and has decided to reestablish his villainous kingdom. But the world is a lot different than when he left. So he basically brings on a major domo to kind of like navigate him through the new world, which is Lexi, who's right here over my other shoulder. That one. So that's the main story, and then the side story is 2 superheroes coming to the crime-ridden blue city of San Francisco, and they want to make their name as big name superheroes. But the conceit of their story is, what if breaking into the superhero business was like breaking into the modern day comic book industry? So the first obstacles that they really come up against are not supervillains, but the Social Justice League.
And you sent me some art of said Social Justice League.
I did.
So we will bring that up.
Just got the colors in yesterday from Oscar. He and I went back and forth. It's funny. This is one of the rare occasions where we didn't have color designs for the characters before he started working on them. So we kind of figured them out on the fly. And Oscar's great. We had a really good time going back and forth until we found like the right mix of colors for each character.
So that there, I'm not sure if I can make that any bigger or not, unfortunately.
Probably not, but hopefully everybody's watching this on a big screen television.
But that there is the Social Justice League.
Yes, they are led by the White Knight. We've got Gatekeeper, Kamalana. We've got Gender Fluid, Non-Binary, Snowflake, Soy Boy, and Black Riot.
Yeah, I think you managed to get your concept very well established there.
Yeah, hopefully the point comes across. You know what's funny is when I was developing this, because I've been working on this for a long time and kind of like pulling it all together and figuring out what the overall story is. And that was about the time they announced that New Warriors reboot, and where they had Snowflake and Safe Space, and I actually did have a character named Safe Space, and ended up like nixing that character, but kept Snowflake around because you need somebody with cold powers, you need somebody with heat powers,
right?
You need all those things. So
didn't they just release that god awful book?
No,
Finally,
your boy Zach got a copy. He got snuck a copy from an insider, so he was able to review several pages from it. It was
as bad as we all thought.
Well, it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be, because it was written like it was as bland as anything else that's been coming out from Marvel for the last several years.
Right.
But I don't think it was any worse than, say, what we've been getting in the last year from them. I just don't think it was just another bland, boring, typical, predictable book from people who don't really care and don't really want to tell great superhero stories.
Right.
Yeah, I've read much more offensively bad books in, like, say, Fire and Ice, Hawk Girl, which were, I mean, offensive to the eyes. And
the pages that I've seen out of Fire and Ice was oof.
Yeah. Whereas this book, it was just meh. It's just bland, and and the best thing to do when you're telling someone's origin is to just beat it into you with a bunch of dialogue. Just 2 pages of just dialogue with the characters narrating their origin. Hey, I'm such and such. I like this. I like that. And I don't like this. I got my powers doing this. It's like that for every single character. Yeah, that's brilliant storytelling there. Very natural.
Drew, remember when we met and the first thing we did was talk about all of our likes and dislikes immediately? Hi, I'm Aaron Sparrow. I don't care for Will Smith movies. I think that...
Yeah.
The only thing they were missing were their pronouns that they preferred to go by. I'm shocked he didn't include those.
I'll say this: at least he tried to do it through dialogue and character interaction instead of just doing the little pithy Scott Pilgrim box that everybody tries to emulate and fails.
Yeah, I hate that stuff now.
Like, they did that in White Widow, in that terrible White Widow book that Marvel put out. Oh god, that was awful.
I'm sorry, you just had me thinking of that Pepe Sylvia wall that she had with like things like I like waffles. I don't like this. I don't like that. It's like, what? This is written by a crazy person. This is insane.
We don't all do that. We don't all have a wall where we put strings and we're like, I like doggies and I like waffles and I like waffles that are shaped like doggies.
Not today.
And we are joined by my buddy Little Chad, whom Aaron you've met before.
Yep.
What's up, Little Chad?
Not much. Just hanging out. Glad to be here. A little late, but here, so that's good.
Why did you choose Lil Chad? Was Big Chad already taken and like you didn't want to pay royalties or?
No, it was specifically. I mean, I made it. It's based on a comic strip I made, where the lead character was named Lil Chad, and using the internet memes as the inspiration, obviously.
Nice. So I assume he is a Chad.
Yeah. So his father's named Chad, so he's Chad Jr. The mom is named Stacy. He has an aunt Karen, who is a blue-haired public school teacher with a nose ring.
That reminds me, Drew. I don't want to give too much away, but did that comic ever come out that you sent me with the Sonic Scream? Did that ever come out, or is that still
not yet?
Pending?
No, that's still, and I think the pages are being lettered right now. I know the publisher, not gonna say their name, they're looking forward to publishing that, I think, later this year. I've seen the covers. We got various covers coming from some big names for that book, Aaron, and it should be huge.
Okay. It's funny because it's like I'm involved with so many of Drew's projects, and then I'm like, did that come out yet, or what's happening with that one? Which one was that? Because after a while, like that, it's everybody in publishing is like, so many people are working like so far ahead that like things will be finished, and then it'll be like, okay, well, the right time to release it is here, and we're finishing up this and we're finishing up that. So sometimes I forget when stuff comes out. The problem with Drew is that he's so prolific and he writes so much that I have to like try to keep pace, or he'll come up with the same ideas I will.
Or Aaron will do the same thing that I do, and it's just it pisses you off. It's like, damn it.
So Drew's book, Unholy Nightmare, has a character named Recluse, and I had a character named Brown Recluse in Kneel Before Doomface. just one of the many, supervillains that will be at the supervillain gala. And I was like, all right, you beat me to the punch on that one, Drew. That's fine. I won't, I won't use it.
Everyone gets one. Everyone gets one.
Everybody gets one. But no, if you guys haven't seen Unholy Nightmare, that book looks amazing. I think it's done, right, Drew? Like it's basically almost finished.
Yeah, it's just being proofread. I think you've got some. I think you may have had a couple notes.
Yeah, just a couple minor notes.
Since you're editing it, you're the editor of Unholy Nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Just as soon as we get those notes and make some adjustments, then this could be ready to go to print.
Yeah, I got to do that this week because one of the things that I sent you in Paradise is I sent you the jam cover that we're doing for New York Comic Con.
Yes.
We're going to do a preview edition of Unholy Nightmare combined with Kneel Before Doomface, and so we did a jam cover that we unveiled today on Thinking Critical.
Yeah, hang on. I'll bring that up. And I think I fixed the problem as to why it wasn't looking right before.
Oh, no.
It was saving them in a weirdly. Now the question is...
I can't make fun of you because I couldn't. If you asked me to bring up something on stream, you're like, share your screen. I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know how to do that. You're just going to see all the icons that are all over my desktop and be like, how do you live?
Yeah, I probably would, actually. I don't do the whole cluttered icon thing.
I don't usually either, but it's just like, it's just become that, and I have to like actually take the time to do the maintenance. Just like I have to go through and do the maintenance on my phone and move photos into folders and things like that I've saved and reference and whatnot, and just have not done it. I've not gotten around to it. Just way too busy.
I got digital Post-its all over my computer. It's like digital Post-its all over the place. That's what I got.
Mm-hmm. You should do a wall, Drew. You should do a wall with strings and waffles, corgis.
Got boxes of Pepe up here.
I mean, everybody wants to live in the meme from Always Sunny. That's
yes. I want to live in the world of Always Sunny where I can, I can just unleash my rage.
And Aaron just started going blam, blam, blam.
I am untethered and my rage knows no bounds. So this is the jam cover. This is Recluse versus Doomface. This is by Juan Jose Reap with colors by Andrew Dalhouse. So we got some top tier talent working on our books.
That's a fantastic cover.
Andrew's colors. I'm fortunate to work with him and then Oscar on the regular book, and it's been great. Like their colors have really like brought everything to life. And Juan's art is so detailed that he makes Flatter's head explode. So, when I sent this over, Andrew was like, "Oh, my Flatter's gonna hate this."
Now, Aaron, you may have had this question before. Did you used to watch the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon in the early '80s?
Yeah, I love that.
Because when I look at Doomface, obviously.
He does
totally get the vibe.
Avenger, yeah.
Avenger, yeah.
Yeah, so Doomface is actually, he's kind of a pastiche. The influences on him are Venger, Skeletor, obviously, Hordak, Primeval from the Ghostbusters cartoon. Not the real Ghostbusters, but the one with the gorilla. And then his armor's got a little bit of a Bishamon influence from Darkstalkers. Mm-hmm. So it was like all these elements that I pulled together and I gave to Tim Lim. And Tim Lim put them all together into this design, and then Renzo went in and did his version of it and kind of refined it, and he made Doomface bigger across the chest, and the arm. Then when we colored it, we made the armor more red than orange because it was more orange in Tim's original concept piece. So yeah, he's a mix of all those things. Being a villain from the '80s that was banished, I thought it was only appropriate that he have those influences.
Oh, that stands to reason. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's interesting too because you don't see a lot of comic books coming out in this day and age where it's about the villain.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have a hero, B story, and the stories will switch back and forth, and then eventually they'll start to intertwine and come to a head. But yeah, it's like I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something fun. And once I kind of like came up with the idea and started fleshing it out with James Silvani, it really started to come to life. The hero portion of the story had always kind of been in the back of my head. Like some of those characters had existed since like the 90s.
Right.
But it wasn't until I arrived on Doomface as the main villain that everything kind of came together.
Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, and when you do see people release books about villains, they're usually not good.
Yeah,
You know what
this
I
one,
mean? They try to make the
yeah,
villain sympathetic, or they try to explain away why he's such a bad guy and wave it off like, well, it's understandable. No, it's not. Can we have some just straight, downright evil villains again, please?
yeah, no,
Bullseye.
Doomface and his younger brother, who is his sibling rival, Malignus, they are both very much in love with being evil for evil's sake.
I would disagree with that take, because if you read some of the Krakatoa era X-Men books, they definitely had villains who were the main characters, and they didn't
Yeah,
make
they were
them
called
good
the
in
X-Men.
any way.
Yeah. It's like, so I'm supposed to be rooting for the racist, speciesist, segregation.
Hold on,
murderers?
let me teleport into a convenience store and stab a just clerk in the neck for using plastic bags that were, sent there by the corporate office. By the way, I'm the hero.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be rooting for Nightcrawler gleefully murdering someone right now. Okay, I guess. That's
Kitty
not
Pryde
Nightcrawler.
is phasing things into people's faces and phasing people into walls and into each other. Okay, yeah, this is the hero. And you know what's funny, because it's like, if you remember, there was an X-Men issue, and one that really stuck out in my mind is Wolverine, who is the killer on the team. He is the one who will kill, and has no problem doing it when it's called for. But he tracked down one of his own teammates, hunted her across the city, and stabbed her for trying to murder the Black Queen, trying to murder Selene, who's a psychic vampire, because he said, what you're doing is you're stalking her and you're hunting her down to murder her. And she's like, you kill people all the time. And he goes, yeah, if someone meets me with a blade, I'll match them with a blade. But this is murder, and we don't do this. The X-Men are better than this. And she said, the only way to stop me, Wolverine, is to kill me. And then that final panel is just snicked. And then in the next issue, you find out he stabbed Rachel to try to stop her from killing somebody else, from committing cold-blooded murder. And now the whole team are cold-blooded murderers. And even now, after the fact, it's like, yeah, they're trying to do this reboot, but they didn't rewrite Krakoa. All that happened. So all these characters, they're all stained by that terrible story.
The one good story, like in the last 20 years, that kind of went down that road that worked, was when Reminder did the Uncanny X-Force.
Yeah.
And there was and it was specifically because this was the I hate to use a Star Trek reference. This was the the was it Department 39 or whatever they say in Star Trek, the special force, like the ones that do the dirty business that the X-Men won't. They also had a very good I thought the suit color scheme worked really well for them. But there was a lot of tension over whether it was right or wrong that they were doing this. Once they got caught doing that, there was problems with the main X-Men force. We're like, no, we don't do this stuff. We don't hunt down people. And then, Wolverine was on that team, and he was like, I'm here, like you said, Aaron, I'm here because I'm the killer. You guys can't be stained with doing this. I've done this. It's too late for me, so I'll just keep doing this. And that's why they had Wolverine. They had Psylocke, who was also had worked. I mean, now we get to rewrite Psylocke, so we pretend she wasn't a killer for most of her, X-Men career. And have they? I haven't really followed it, but I believe they've also moved her out of the Asian body, so they didn't have to deal with the issues of was it cultural appropriation with Psylocke.
They went back to the idea that she's split. Like, there's the Quanon body, and then there's the Betsy body. They went back to that idea so that they could have both Psylocks.
See, that makes it even worse for me, because you can't even stick to your principles. If you really believed it was appropriation, you'd get rid of it. But they don't.
Stuck to their principles. They made Betsy a lesbian, and they made Rachel a lesbian. So that's the only idea that they have at the House of Idea. It's put a chick in it and make her gay.
But wait a second. If there's two Psylocks, if they split them, won't they be lesbians together? Is that the next level thing?
Oh man, see now
Don't
you're
give
writing
them ideas. Dude,
yeah,
Yeah.
you're writing fanfic, Chad. You're writing fanfic, and they're gonna do it.
Fanfic is what Marvel is now. It's so bad.
it's so shipping. It's shipping fantasies. That's all they are.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that we haven't mentioned yet is just taking away the mantles and titles that a male character had and give them to that female character, like Captain Britain. Is no longer Brian Braddock. It is Betsy. Brian Braddock is Brian Braddock now. He's just some guy now, and Betsy is now Captain Britain. So, yeah.
Didn't Chuck
Who
Dixon?
asked for that? No one.
Chuck Dixon already did a female Captain Britain, and then she became Lionheart, and now I don't even know what happened to that character.
But that was, I mean, before there was a Deadpool Corps and everything else, there was the Captain Britain Corps where they were at the Siege Perilous protecting the multiverse. That goes back, Jesus, what, to the 80s when they started doing that?
Yeah, I think so.
And it was always Brian or a multiverse variation of him. This is ridiculous. It bothers me.
Soul Assassin says Bylocks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Soul
that's what they
Assassin is he's in a lot of the other chats on the streams I'm in, and he's damn funny usually. But he asked a question.
That'd be a good title. Like, there you go.
Yeah.
There's your 16th title of the month of Tom Brevoort. Just do Bylocks.
So he asked a question as well, and see what your guys' takes on this, because I didn't really read a lot of them. Are the Blade comics any good?
Not the modern ones.
Now, no.
Yeah.
The 70s and 80s are great.
Yeah, all that Tomb of Dracula stuff with Blade in is great, although it's a very different Blade than we have now.
Yeah.
And I would say if you can find them, check out the early '90s Blade series. They're a very low print run, great art, but they're hard to find. And those were actually pretty good. And along with that Morbius series at the time that came out in the early '90s, I think it was Ron Wagner was on the art. He was fantastic.
I liked all those Midnight Sun books. I even liked the one with the little dwarf
Yeah.
that was going around giving people pages from the Darkhold. Like, whatever happened to that guy?
It's a damn shame the game turned out to be garbage.
I would say, I mean,
Looked
I
awful.
know Marvel for a while was printing the Black and White Essentials line where they were doing a lot of their 70s stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have all the Tomb of Draculas. Yeah,
Yeah.
get the Tomb of Draculas. They are
Yeah,
fantastic.
because Tomb of Dracula from the 70s, Ghost Rider, 70s runs, Werewolf by Night, where Moon Knight started. I mean, that stuff, that was like, Marvel took some risks that was different and experimental. In the 70s, they were doing some crazy stuff. And
Yeah.
a lot of, they really leaned into, like, occult was really big at that time, and they leaned into it. That's why, I mean, Doctor Strange, if you go back and read the original stuff, is trippy, psychedelic, like acid trip kind of things.
Mhm.
It's
a lot of the
like
creators were doing drugs. A lot of them were
Yeah.
doing drugs when they were doing.
I mean,
which helps.
I would imagine that Steranko probably had a charge account out the wazoo with whoever was dealing in that zone. But I mean, some of that, if you can get your hands on that stuff, it's really cool to read. I mean, hell, even the Nick Fury miniseries from that era when he came in, like that. It's so different from what you're used to from current year Marvel. You don't think comics can be fun like that from a mainline Marvel title, but they were. I mean, and it's not like Marvel wasn't doing experimental stuff even as like around the 2000s. I remember. Do you guys remember the Max line where they weren't full like NC-17 ratings?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And the Punisher books for there were crazy.
I got the omnibuys of those. I love it.
Yeah.
The character of Colonel Silverstreak in Kneel Before Doomface is based largely on Garth Ennis's version of Fury from those 90s books.
Oh yeah, Garth Ennis was off his rocker in the like Preacher. I mean, if all you know of Preacher is the Seth Rogen show, you should go watch it. Like, especially since they didn't have the rights to make the John Wayne and Clint Eastwood references that he was pulling in the comic books.
We were talking.
Which
We
is-
were talking his Hitman run earlier today on Aficionados.
What do you think was Garth Ennis's best mainline run?
Punisher Max for me. Honestly, I have reread.
Not Welcome Back,
Punisher
Frank?
Max line. No, Welcome Back Frank was good. Welcome Back Frank is really good, but I consider that more of like the. It's funny. Here's what's interesting about this. So when he wrote Welcome Back Frank, that was pre 9/11. So he wrote it like it was like a Looney Tunes Tex Avery comic with the Punisher as like Bugs Bunny in this, just having fun with it. And then 9/11 happens. He said like he cannot be funny anymore. We got to be serious about it. And then that's when he made it like a hard left turn and made it a stark, serious comic with the Punisher. And they're both great in their own rights. But honestly, the Punisher Max line, when he brings him in like, more or less into the real world, when it's just him and Nick Fury that we know, those two characters, it's fantastic. A lot of those storylines in there, like Up and Down, Black is White, The Slavers, Kitchen Irish, I've reread those so many times because the characters are so amazing. Because what he does, he takes these like 6-issue mini series, and what he does, he sets up the villains, sets up how evil these villains are, and eventually, when he gets to it, you cannot wait for Punisher to come in and just start mowing them down.
If I remember right, wasn't that also that they? Because I'm a '90s kid, so I had my Darkhawk 1 through 50 run. They also had like the weirdest take on Darkhawk, where he was like mentally in the 616 universe, but it was all just a fantasy they were using to make him a killer. He was like a robot thing. It was so dark.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Go. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Drew.
Oh, no, I was going to say, it's like they kind of took elements from Miracle Man a little bit, where he was like alternating bodies, like in and out of bodies. But it took a hard. That's another one where it took a hard left turn. Eventually, it's like, where are we going here with this? This is amazing. How we got from just finding an amulet in an amusement park, to just having an armor to this.
Yeah, I don't mind how they retconned it for War of Kings. That where it was actually a Shi'ar like tech thing that helped make it make it a little more sense with multiple, because there was not a lot of tonal consistency in those 50 books and Spider-Man guest starred in half of them, so it was
hey, if you guys sell a book, you bring in Spider-Man.
It was if you were a Marvel fan, it was funny to watch how it went from Spider-Man being the guy that guested in every single book to suddenly it being Wolverine after the X-Men movie came out. It was...
Wolverine was already kind of like getting pumped into everything. Him, Ghost Rider, Punisher, and then Spider-Man.
Oh, but it was Spider-Man. Like Aaron, it was Spider-Man. Spider-man was like the guy that you brought
Spider-Man
in.
showed up in issue 3 of Transformers. What are you gonna do?
Did he really?
He did, yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. I forgot they tried to make the Transformers part of the 616.
Nick Fury's in that issue too, because they're talking about like Dum Dum comes in and he's talking about like these big robots, and they make a Godzilla reference because they didn't have the Godzilla license at that time. But Nick's like, if that big fire-breathing green lizard is loose again, I quit. And it was like, oh yeah, Shield was always chasing him in the Godzilla Marvel books.
That's true, because they also tried putting in the Shogun Warriors into the 616 too, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 70s.
Yep.
And you never hear about them ever again. Not even like a reference because of any sort. Just like no, that never happened. Those people never existed.
I love it when they still the fact that the Dire Wraiths are still around and the Space Knights are still around, just not ROM.
Yeah.
Who is it in the Space Knights? Exactly, licensing. It's just.
You know what though? Marvel Legends is making a ROM figure. So do they have the ROM rights back? Right?
Wow.
Or they
might just have the toy.
To do that. They might
No,
have
they
the rights to
reprinted
do that.
Yeah, they actually reprinted an omnibus of all the ROM issues, and recently the Micronauts. They had to get the license back for the Micronauts, and so they've got the rights back to do this. So
who had was that a Hasbro thing? Like who owned ROM?
Hasbro.
That was a Hasbro thing.
Makes if you're Hasbro, look, they're dumping IPs left and right.
I don't think they owned it initially, but I think that they acquired it through one of the companies that they overtook.
I mean, have you seen how they're just auctioning off everything Power Rangers, and they're just going to start they're letting Playmates make Power Rangers toys, right?
Playmates cannot make a good toy to save their life. That is the worst toy company. Everything they make sucks.
Do you remember? I remember that when I was a kid that they had the TNG toys, and they were so ass.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man.
My brother was always pissed because Riker came with like a torn shirt, and it was like the action guy. And my brother was pissed off because he was like, "When are they just gonna make a Riker that doesn't have that's not jacked up? Like he shouldn't be on the bridge with his uniform in that condition."
It's like this is like he's gonna get card's gonna ream it and asshole for he keeps showing up like that. No.
I remember we would talk about, like, my brother would talk about, like, wanting the bridge playset. And his thing was always like, I just want to have the Borg appear on the bridge and throw Worf over the console. Because anytime anyone invaded the ship, like, Worf was always going over the top of that console.
Yeah, it's like, how do we show that they're strong? You throw the Klingon. That's what you do.
The Klingon runs up and gets tossed.
I mean, how many times did we have the like Data just like soft tossing Klingons left and right to like, remember, he's an android, he can do all this stuff. But yeah, Playmates, man. Oh, they're. I think they had the Power Rangers toy rights in the 90s.
They seem to have the Turtles in perpetuity, and man, everybody else who gets the Turtles license like blows them away. Super 7 was doing those original sculpts, and they were like improving them, and they were fantastic.
Oh, is it NECA? NECA's been killing it. Yeah, the cartoon authentic reissues, like Metalhead is amazing. I love what they're doing with that. I mean, and then if you look at their last Ronin sculpts, they are awesome.
All the Mirage stuff is fantastic. I love all the cartoon sculpts. The movie sculpts, like, we're getting, like, I haven't found him yet, but like Tatsu is out now.
My buddy got him. He did a review on it. My buddy Toy Gains. He likes it quite a lot.
Ninja vanish.
You know, I'll tell you an underrated line that I've been really liking, and it's from Hasbro, is the classified line, since they made that hard turn away from like 2023 current year style into the classic designs, has been great. Like, they are legit 6-inch scale, beautifully made like G1, like G.I. Joe, Real American Hero stuff. And it's
I'm a big fan. I've been like, there's Rock and Roll.
Yep.
But I customized him back to look like.
Oh, they're doing they're gonna do it. Yeah, he's on they announced the retro card back. Rock and Roll's coming out.
Good, because I did not want him with those stupid tattoos. I don't want any, like Clutch, on the Vamp. Like, it's like, okay, get the alcohol out, get the Q-tip out, get those tattoos off his arm.
The only ones that should have tattoos are the Dreadnoks. They
or
can
any
be
Joe that
up.
any Joe that had tattoos in the original figures. But like,
Gung Ho should have it right on his chest.
I was gonna say that he should be the only one. He should be like one of the few that's not the only one who has a tattoo.
Well, didn't Shipwreck have the standard Navy anchor on?
Shipwreck.
Shipwreck's another one. Shipwreck. I'm like,
Have you guys seen the mech versions of the Turtles?
Yes.
Oh yeah, where the turtle van can transform into the.
Yeah, those things are.
You know what sucks about that?
Wild.
And I appreciate it from a cost savings, but where they include you just swap the head to make it which turtle you want it to be.
No, they're doing separate ones.
Well, the one that's out now, that where it's like the transforming turtle van, it has swappable face masks basically.
So I'm working on my own custom Big Boa, because
Nice.
the Big Boa is not big enough in my opinion. So this is on the Hercules Marvel Legends body.
Do the head pegs swap? Are they interchangeable? They're Hasbro.
This is a custom sculpt.
Oh, okay.
So I don't like the Big Boa helmeted head sculpt. I don't like the unmasked one either. He looks dumb. But yeah, I was working on that before they announced theirs, and then once I saw theirs, I was like, I'm still gonna get him, but he's not gonna be the official Big Boa in my collection.
You know what sucks? The Super 7 Ultimate G.I. Joe line?
Yes.
Sucks. It blows. I'm sorry.
It's got good accessories, but that's it.
Yeah, and it's way too expensive. If I'm paying that much, the idea that I'm buying something with such limited articulation is pissing me off.
How can you call it ultimate when you don't give it double jointed elbows and knees? You can't call that
exactly. I was like, don't make me think that my O-rings from 1984 are better sculpted than your stuff you're charging me $50 for.
I didn't mind it on the Thundercats because they had the He-Man, or they had the Masters of the Universe Classics aesthetic. So I didn't mind it so much, except for in cases like Tigra, where there was barely any range of motion on the knees. And they had a couple figures that were just...
the accessories they crowdfunded for that thing were so crazy expensive. it was crazy. Like the Jones, that's nice. What is
They're making a
is
desert
that
op
beachhead?
Yep.
There, yeah. The retro beachhead is pretty awesome.
I just got that one, and I just got the snow serpent. I didn't pick up the eel because he didn't seem substantially different from the 6 that I bought when he was in the regular packaging.
Oh yeah, nice.
If he would have had the retro backpack and everything, I would have bought a bunch more. But he had the same gear.
I'll tell you which one I've liked that I got lately. The Techno Viper just hit the Target near where I live.
Yeah,
and I'm a big fan of that. That sculpt is nice. It's got a good look, authentic. And I tell you what, I got Tomax and Zaymot from like some online warehouse for like $6 each. I was like,
yeah, they hit Ross. Yeah,
I'm happy with that. Like I can live with that one. I mean, because that was one of those ones where they already went with it. There's no like I didn't have to replace a Tomax or Zaymot. They're just like, nope, they just went straight 1980s style. I don't know how they could have modernized that. I will say I didn't mind the Major Blood modernization. I thought it was actually pretty awesome. The look.
Yeah, and now they're using it in the Energon universe, so they're using that sculpt.
Nice. Probably boring to tears the chat since we're talking about
they're talking about toys. What are you guys doing? We didn't come here for this, or maybe they did. Who knows?
I think most of the people that come into my chat realize it's going to be a meandering kind of conversation because it always is, regardless of what I do. So I've just given into it.
I want to make toys of all the character designs. Like when like the best compliment that I gave Drew when he first sent me the designs for Unholy Nightmare and was talking about the idea. He sent me the designs that Aurelio had done, and I was like, I mean, the best compliment I can give you is that I want an action figure of this. That's so that's one of the things that like I've Sully Eric O'Sullivan always mentions and always busts my balls a little bit, is he said I learned a new word from Aaron, which is toyetic. The designs have to be toyetic. They have to be.
Are you doing Ike Perlmutter over here?
Yeah, well, it's like you have to. I think I heard it when they were talking about the Batman Forever stuff.
Yes.
When they came in and they told Joel Schumacher that that all the designs need to be toyetic so that we can sell merch. And he's like, I'd never heard that word before. I think that's probably the first place that I heard it. But it's true. It's true. It's like you want your designs to be, with Kneel Before Doomface, I didn't want the designs to be comedic in and of themselves. I mean, there will be some characters that are comedic, the more like loser villains and loser heroes and things. But mostly I wanted you to look at them and take them seriously. Like these characters could exist in a serious comic.
I'll tell you what, a McFarlane Doomface would probably be pretty awesome.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Oh god, yeah.
I mean, because he's gonna have a lot of those assets from all the sculpts for the different Spawn ones already. He could probably make it pretty awesome.
He'd definitely have a stand with like a bed of skulls, right?
Yeah, I'm not a big toy collector. I'm more of a Gundam model guy myself, but even I would buy a nice figure of Doomface. That's just got a design that screams, like you said, this needs to be an action figure.
Mm-hmm. And I think Lexi, I think that's another one. I think the heroes are fun. Obviously, Colonel Silverstreak's like your military badass, so you could get a good figure out of that.
Mm-hmm.
I really want a figure of the Lamprey because the Lamprey is just such a joke. And then with Unholy Nightmare, like I really want a Jenny. She's she's got a great design, her alt form, and I really want Recluse with like you can pop out his human arms and then put in his spider arms. Just like that'd be the coolest thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also nice to see heroes and villains even being designed with that in mind, even if it is more along the collectible mindset and not the mainstream mass appeal toy market.
I hate to break it to you, Imp. The collector is the mainstream toy market now.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But at the same time, you want them to look cool, and you want to be something like a character that I could have seen myself 20, 30 years ago playing with an action figure of, or seeing as a cartoon character back in the day, or in Image Comics back in the early 90s. And I'd like to think, a character like Recluse, he's one of those characters. And I mean, Aaron and I know there are plenty of quote unquote comic book creators out there who are creating something just to have a Netflix pitch, where you tell there's no imagination, no creativity into the designs, the characters, or anything. It's just bland, basic bitch comics. And no, we want our characters to look colorful, creative, and like a kid would actually like to be entertained by this.
Hold on. Bland story, characters that are wooden. My God, Zack Snyder's ready to buy that right now.
What are you talking about? Rebel Moon was a triumph.
Of Triumph, the insult comic dog variety. I don't know. I mean,
or make the poop on. Yeah.
What got me, and I one of our on our podcast that I do with Slender, who's in the chat, when that movie came out, I was the sacrificial lamb who watched it. Like, we took turns. He handled The Witcher Blood Origins, and I handled, Rebel Moon. And I
got the worst end of that deal.
I think it was me in hindsight. And I showed I pulled up a scene from the second movie when I was like, here, do you know how the intergalactic spaceships go? And he was like, what are you talking about? I was like, oh, if I'm Zack Snyder and I'm designing intergalactic warships that look like the Battleship Yamato from 1940s, World War II, how do you think I'm making them go? And he's like, I don't know. I was like, yeah, coal. Shoveling coal into a giant boiler. And he's like, you're kidding me. And I pulled up the actual frame of the guy shoveling coal into the boiler, and he was like, oh my God.
It's such a I don't know how they let this guy write. They let this guy, I'm going to imagine a universe. I don't understand. Like, if you give him something that's already storyboarded out, like Watchmen, and he just uses that as the storyboards, he's okay. You give him a James Gunn script like Dawn of the Dead, it's going to deliver a fine movie. But you let him think that he's a visionary and that he can write a story and that he can world build and he can write characters, and it's just, no, absolutely not.
Zack Snyder has made 3 movies that I enjoy and will rewatch. Dawn of the Dead, like you said, with James Gunn, where he was limited on budget and had James Gunn's script, and so he couldn't engage in his Zack Snyder shenanigans. I don't even think there's slow-mo in that one, which is interesting.
Yeah.
There's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple moments. Not much. A couple moments.
But nothing excessive. Nothing that
Yeah.
300, which again was completely. I mean, if you get the 300 hardback standard, it's basically the storyboard for what they shot. He didn't even deviate at all from that. He has. And then Watchmen, which, again, same thing. He kept it. The only major change was moving it from the Squid to being Dr. Manhattan. And I'm like, I actually like that change, because the Squid thing was always weird and random. So using Dr. Manhattan, who was legitimately the only god superhero on the planet, everyone else was just alleged to be people who trained really hard at doing what they were doing. It made sense that he would be the uniting villain. It'd be like if Superman was the only superhero, every country would be scared of Superman.
The one other change that I disagreed with that Zack Snyder made that I think is a major problem. I don't think that taking the Squid out is a major problem. There are some little nitpicks that I could make, but overall, I think it works. The change that I hated was he had Rorschach murder the killer with the meat cleaver, because Zack Snyder thought that was cooler than giving the killer the meat cleaver and telling him, you can chop your own arm off to get out, and then setting the place on fire and going out and waiting. And, and then of course the guy never comes out. I think that's much more powerful, but Zack Snyder likes that visceral violence. So I thought that was a poor choice. But yeah, otherwise I can watch Watchmen and I can enjoy it. And that opening, you got to admit, anytime Zack Snyder is doing a music video style opening, whether it's The Man Comes Around in Dawn of the Dead, or he's doing, The Times Are A-Changin' in Watchmen, it's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I think that's even a one shot. Technically, it's just a scrolling. I mean, it's obviously edited with digital technology, but it's still a one shot style one, which is designed to keep your eyes on the screen without moving. And it works really well. It was it really does sum up. It's a really good info dump to give you the entire history of the Watchmen universe in 3 minutes.
He's showing you and not telling you, which is fantastic.
And on the other hand, you get something like, Sucker Punch. No.
Anytime he's allowed to indulge himself, it's terrible. Anytime he's operating on rails that he can't, it's like he can bump up against them a little bit back and forth, but he can't get out past them. Then you probably get a decent watchable film.
My favorite thing about it was obviously the controversy with Justice League was when people were criticizing Whedon. They were like, "Oh, he's objectifying Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. He's shooting her from like the ground to show her ass and doing all these things." And I remember like specifically it was like Grace Randolph going off on how Whedon was such a creep, and you could see all this stuff. And then the Zack Snyder cut came out, and all those shots were his.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly, there was silence. There was silence. No one complained about it.
Whedon is a creep, no doubt. There's plenty of stories out there about him. And of course, he did have to work in the one thing that he always loves, which is, the guy fell on her boobs. He's always got to do that joke. But yeah, all those shots were Snyder's. And, come on, consider the source, though. It's Grace Randolph.
Yeah.
No, I know, but
the idea only positive review for when Borderlands came out the other day.
I thought it was pretty good.
I've never played the games, but it seemed like a good time to me.
But everybody else who didn't play the games is saying like, no, this movie is awful. Like this movie is objectively awful. The characters you don't care. Like just all the elements that would make a movie. Everybody else seems to think are lacking.
Grace Randolph in 1992 would have been like, this Super Mario Brothers movie is amazing. The characters are so good. They're having a good time. This is a game. I've never played the game, but it's something I think I'd like to play after watching this movie.
I worked with... Did you guys know that I worked with Grace Randolph?
No.
Oh, yeah. Did you do Superbia?
No, I was gone at the time that Superbia came out, but I worked with her on a Muppet book, and then there were some other pitches I was trying to get through to Pixar that we could possibly work on back when I was at Boom Studios. I found Grace perfectly nice to work with, and I don't think that she's a bad person. I think she's just got terrible takes and terrible taste, and I think that she's become a shill.
Oh yeah, I mean,
who doesn't give her honest opinion on things because her bread and butter is in serving the corporate interest.
So that's where my favorite example of that was when Wonder Woman 84 came out, and it stuck in like the day they dropped the reviews for it. Hers came out, and she said it was like the greatest Wonder Woman movie take she'd ever seen. They got the character right in a way that she never thought possible. Blah. It was the most glowing thing of all time. And then 1 week later, after everybody had seen it because it dropped online, and all her fans were crushing it, she completely 180'd and was like, "Oh, this is clearly Jeff Johns' fault. It's terrible. Why would they do this?" I was like, "You bitch, you said it was great." Like, and she has this thing for Jeff Johns where she just wants to, I mean, I get it. Maybe he's got a bad rep in real life or something. I was like, but as a comic book guy, I've always liked the comic books he did. I mean,
yeah, I've always been a fan of his Green Lantern run.
Yeah, I mean, so I was like,
I know a few things. I know a few things about Jeff Johns that I can't really talk about because they're not my stories to tell. But even then, like knowing the stories, I don't know if it was willful or if it was just not thinking, but just a couple of things. So I don't know. I don't really have an opinion one way or another. I do like the books that he's doing right now. I like the Ghost Machine stuff. I liked Three Jokers. I think he was one of the last talented guys at DC before they stopped returning his calls and just said, no, we're just going to go with Tom King and bring Scott Snyder back for big, dumb, sentient Cape Batman.
Yeah, I saw that one page you posted. Dear God.
Scott Snyder has been living off of the Court of Owls for what, like a decade and a half now? I mean,
yeah, at least a decade. Yeah.
Had that started before they did New 52, or because
that was the New 52. Yeah, that was the New 52.
It's hard to tell because Batman was one of the ones where basically they kept the continuity running from where it was before New 52.
That and Green Lantern, right? Because it was also Jeff Johns. But then you were like, so Blackest Night happened. So even though Superman's continuity is totally different, he was dead in Blackest. He was a Black Lantern, and Wonder Woman was a Black. Even though all that other continuity changed, how does this work? And they were just like, "Don't worry about
I
it."
loved how me and my boys in the comic book store after the New 52 came out, and they were basically saying, Batman and these other, like you said, these other continuities stayed. I was like, let's do the timeline on the 5 years that apparently all this stuff happened in. So Batman's like Superman's been dead. They did Blackest Night. He came back. All this happened within 5 years. Like Batman was dead and came back after being killed by a Darkseid, allegedly. He was replaced by Dick Grayson and then came back, and we have Batman Inc. within 5 years. Somehow Damian Wayne, and that's when they changed Damian Wayne to being an aged up clone instead of an aged up child instead of a child that was born and raised in the Assassin's Guild. I was like, this stuff, you're screwing things up, man. This isn't gonna work. And what did New 52 last? 2 years before they did the Rebirth?
No, it lasted until 2016, I think, 2017, and then DC Rebirth kicked off. So they had a good 4 years, I think, to really, because you
really
think each issue had 52 issues, and that's roughly 4 years.
Do you know what the answer to all of your questions were, though? The answer to all your questions were, listen, we're going to need you to get all the way off our back about this.
Is that what if you as an editor was saying, hold on, raising my hand, excuse me. Excuse me.
One moment. Just a question here. Just a query. I'm just curious. How does this all work?
She's like, then your Austin Powers from Part 2 is like, I've gone cross-eyed, and it's like, I suggest you don't think about it and just have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be the editor's note in the comic, and that goes for you too, audience.
That's right. Just enjoy the ride.
I mean, I didn't mind like Blackest Night, but like when you were talking about Snyder, when he started getting into metal and death metal, I was just like,
don't even try to think about it. Do not think. Don't think about it.
I'm just sitting there going, I watch anime, a lot of it. I've seen some outlandish shit. You, sir, take the cake.
So you know
pure
it's
nonsense.
It's crazy.
All edgy. It's all edgy crap. It's all edgy, like, dad trying to be cool for his. I keep saying this, but it's like a dad trying to impress his teenage son who doesn't like him very much. And he's like, what if instead of a lasso of truth, Wonder Woman had a chainsaw of truth?
Yeah. And the idea that it was related to like all the magic metals of the DC universe, which was weird, like the nth metal and this. And I was like, oh, it reminded me.
A dumb idea, and then work backwards to try to make it cool.
A much better version of what he was trying to do was Earth X from the Marvel side, where you had somebody. Was it Kurt Busiek who did Earth X?
No, it was Alex.
Yeah,
Alex.
Busiek wrote it, but Alex Ross did the art. Yeah. Alex Ross did the covers, but the interior shit.
Yeah, where Busiek was basically like, how can I make all of the weird continuity of the Marvel universe actually work? And it's funny because that shit is where that celestial seed being in the Earth's core came from. And that ended up, I was like, that ended up in the movies? This weird thing from Earth X is what ended up in the movies? Like, come on. The celestial seed that was being fed, and that's where vibranium was. That's why there was vibranium on the planet, because the Celestials put it there to be basically the nutrients for the developing embryo of the celestial seed. I was like, oh my god! And this is like, and then it shows up in Eternals. I'm like, you picked that. Good for you.
Well, the fact that they picked the Eternals to do a movie for still makes me shake my head.
Well, because nobody cared, and they could swap the sexes and the sexual references around.
Well, and they were high on their own supply after Guardians. They didn't realize that James Gunn and his skills is what helped Guardians hit with that weird dynamic. Well, it wasn't that like Marvel could just make anything
they announced
work.
The Guardians movie, I was looking at a buddy of mine who's a comic collector. I'm like, why the fuck are they doing the Guardians? Nobody knows who the fuck they are. Because I didn't realize there was a newer comic book. I was still thinking back to the 70s version.
No, I had friends who were thinking that it was going to be the 90s version by Jim Valentino. They were like, "Do you think they'll have Rancor in the movie? Wolverine's great granddaughter?" And I'm like, I don't think they're doing that. I think they're doing the DNA.
The modern.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, and of course he turns and looks at me and he's like, "Are you stupid?" No, he's like, "There's a new book out." I was like, "Oh," but this is also the same guy when I explained to him the story of Metal, DC Metal. He has this look on his face of, "You're kidding." No, you're kidding, right? It's like, no.
Here's a good question. Like, which was the dumbest, stupidest storyline for like a company-wide crossover event? We've got DC Metal, obviously, is in there for being.
There's a lot of DC ones.
Terrible edgelord, stupid one. I mean, Marvel, you could start throwing in some stuff there.
That
too.
one at the end of New 52 was terrible too. Convergence, was it?
They basically abandoned
fix.
Yeah.
That was trying to fix everything.
That was terrible.
What was the Marvel one where everyone had a hammer?
Fear Itself.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna say Secret Empire was the worst Marvel one.
That was pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Secret Empire, because the brand, that was when I stopped collecting. It was I remember vividly because I was spending, I had a better job, higher pay, and I was spending probably at this phase in my life $100 a week at the comic book store on my pull list. So I was a not insignificant, guy. And when Captain America, when they pulled that Hydra shit, and I was like, mother effers. It was the first time I ever wrote a message and I dropped it to the editorial emails, and I copied every editorial email at Marvel, and I was like, dear whoever reads this, I'm sure you feel like you've got good reasons to be making this choice on Captain America's 75th anniversary year, because that seems smart. I bet you think that a magic group of people will suddenly come into the comic book store and start buying comics because of your new edgy, takes on things, and that my $100 a week mostly spent on Marvel books won't matter to you. But in the end, I think it'll actually be more of me type people quitting than new comic book readers. Sorry, I'm never buying another Marvel book, and I haven't. And because the only one that's tempted me was the Spider-Man where he's actually back with Mary Jane, and
Ultimate
even that
Spider-Man.
And that one quickly went off the rails. So you're not.
Did it?
There. Yeah.
Yes. Oh yes.
How did they break him up with Mary Jane this time, or make him a bad guy?
No, he's still with Mary Jane. It's just that the book is boring.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was literally one issue. It was like a date night issue. It's like the 4th or 5th issue where you had Harry and Gwen Stacy, and you had Peter and MJ on a double date in a restaurant. That was the whole issue. That was it.
How do you make that boring? There's so much.
They're just talking about their private lives. That's it.
Here's the thing.
But that doesn't have to be boring.
Jonathan Hickman has never been able to human very well. So in any story that he wrote, and I love a lot of his stuff, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it's like really high concept, kind of sci-fi, and when he's doing action and things like that, he does really well. When he has to get down into those little interpersonal moments that connect you to the characters, he's not as good with that. He's not as good with humanity.
Which is why he was perfect for Fantastic Four, because if you come at it from the angle of that's how Reed Richards is interacting with his family, it works perfect. And that run on Fantastic Four was brilliant and amazing.
Yeah, and he still wrote my favorite interaction between Doom and Reed, which is at the end of Secret Wars, when it just comes down to what it's really about. And Doom is just throwing this tantrum, and he's like, admit it, Richards, you've always thought you were better than me. And Reed says, no, but I've always thought you could be better than what you are. And it's like, if you would have put a caption after that, it would have been a cliche, but if you would have put a caption after that said, sometimes the truth hurts, and then with Doom going nuts, it would have worked, because that is that boils down what Dr. Doom's and Reed's relationship is so well. So yeah, I think he was very effective writing Reed Richards, and I think that's why he loves writing Reed Richards. But when you have to do Peter Parker and Mary Jane and Harry and his date, he just doesn't have anything interesting to say. And in this day and age, if you're going to do people sitting and eating food and having a conversation, you better make it interesting, because that is 90% of the books on the shelf, and they suck.
But that, to me, as a Spider-Man fan, if you put Harry Osborn, Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane, and Peter Parker at a table, there's so much shit you could mine.
Mm-hmm.
But
You,
but like Aaron
that could
said,
be great. Yeah.
I mean, how many Hellfire Galas have we had now? For God's sake.
God, is it? I don't know. I see. I know that at least one of them's just stacked up at Ollie's the last time I went. So I don't. The hardcover, by the way, for like $4.
You see, what they could have done in this dinner situation is that there could have been like a escalating tension in certain topics that they're going to talk about, but that never happens. There's no escalation. They're just talking about family stuff, going, working, what they do as couples, and things to do for breakfast and dinner. And it's like, I'm reading this, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Is this it?
I think problem,
I couldn't believe it.
Part of the problem might have been too, because a lot of people have said over the years they like the fact that Peter Parker was humanized for a good portion of his career. Yeah, he was a strong superhero, he was popular, whatever, but he still had that human side that people could relate to. And I think they just went too far in that direction. At least that's what it sounds like to me. It's like, oh,
I mean, you got it. Peter Parker is what sells Spider-Man, not the other way around. You got to understand. At least this is my take on it. What makes Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man specifically, the one that sells, because you've seen they've made umpteen billion variations of Spider-Man now, but the one that moves the needle and gets the cash is Peter Parker, because there's a unique part of his character where Peter Parker gets shat on by the world constantly. Mm-hmm. He is not the guy who wins. He won one time with Mary Jane, and everybody was and that's why everybody is so attached to Mary Jane for Peter. It's his win. It's his one thing, and we want that for him. And so when Quesada took that away, that's why we still bitch about it to this day. But if you look at Spider-Man's career, he's constantly losing. He actually loses fights all the time compared to other superheroes. But it's like that friggin' Rocky Balboa quote. It's like, it's not when your life's gonna kick your ass. It's but how do you get back up? Spider-Man, what made him special is he always got back up. Look at one of the most famous covers from McFarlane's, or was it the Torment cover, where he's just like getting crushed, his mask ripped off. And the reason that speaks to who Peter Parker is because he's constantly getting his ass kicked, and it's him getting back up and not quitting is what makes people attached to Peter Parker. And that's why it doesn't translate when people try to put someone else in the hood, where unlike when Dick Grayson took over with Batman Inc. when Bruce was gone, it still sold pretty well, and there was a lot of the fan base that was pretty happy with it, especially with his dynamic with Damian Wayne. When Wally West took over for Barry Allen, there was a little period where it didn't set, but the fans of The Flash eventually, and not too long really, within about 3 to 4 years, were really on board with Wally West as The Flash. But people
it was Ralph Waldo Emerson, or maybe it was Aftershock Comics that said, "We get knocked down, but we get up again. Nothing's ever
ain't nothing to keep us down."
That was just for Drew.
Yeah. Chumbawamba over there. Yeah.
There is
Esquire.
Yeah, there is something that we like when Aftershock did this proposal about coming back and doing comics, and I don't think that they have. I don't think that they've gotten back up again, Drew. I haven't seen anything like put out, but they were like, hey, no, we're still going to do it. And in their presentation, they actually put the Chumbawamba album up on the screen and played "We Get Knocked Down, Look It Up Again," and it was just the most embarrassing display ever. So whenever we can sneak in a reference and when one of us isn't expecting it,
that's a whole new level of cringe that I didn't really feel like experiencing tonight.
It's so embarrassing. It's as embarrassing as any presentation by Distillery, which is the AEW of comic books. It's like we've never drawn a dime, but somehow we keep fortunately we've got people who keep putting money in.
So
yeah, they just got another $4 million. They're doing well.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing great. They're paying for those big San Diego Comic-Con spaces where they don't make their money back, and putting out books in stores where they don't make their money back. And it's gonna be great. You know what? They're gonna land some movie deals though, Drew, because that's a lucrative business model right now.
I know.
Just look how it worked out for IDW.
And Boom Studios.
And boom.
And Warner Brothers. Look at Warner Brothers. They did fantastic. They only lost what, 9
Oh.
billion? That's not bad.
Yeah.
They
So-
lost almost half their profit and revenue in their video game division from
Yeah, 'cause
one
that-
game.
Sweet Baby Inc. baby. That's what hiring Sweet Baby Inc. gets you. It gets you devaluing your company by about half.
Well, it's Warner Brothers is a unique case because they've been passed around like the town bicycle since the 90s. I mean, people forget AOL bought Warner Brothers. And
AOL
that
Time
was
Warner.
that was a piece of shit deal. Like AOL thought that magically getting Warner Brothers was going to make the internet work better. I don't know, but then
I think they thought that like, hey, we're going to lose our monopoly on the way that people access the internet. We should
Time to that. We
probably
should
get
diversify.
into something else.
Yeah. And then AT&T bought Warner Brothers along with DirecTV, and that was going to be like, we're going to put all this Warner Brothers content on AT&T phones and DirecTV, because like Aaron said, they were like, we need to get everybody, all these tech companies thought they needed to get the content creators.
Mhm.
And so if you think about what's wrong with Warner Brothers, since the late 90s, they've been run by tech companies. And you can see how that could cause problems. And that's why I give Zaslav some credit. He's been in there for about 3 years now, and he's the first media guy running Warner Brothers since 1997. And he's basically discovering all these shitty deals that got made before he was running it. Like, Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League didn't happen under his watch. That game took several years to develop.
Mhm.
And so he's just like, at Zaslav's level, what he's been doing for the last 24 months is make more Harry Potter. Make Harry Potter shit. Like, hey, let's get James Gunn and make some Superman shit. We need to get, like, his focus is we need Superman making money. We need Harry Potter making money. And then what's happened is once Justice League Kills the Suicide Squad comes out, and that number is so horrendous, even the CEO of the friggin' company is like, whoa, what the hell's this shit? Like, what were we hiring? Why? I'm sure at this point he might have even seen Mrs. Freeze and been like, what are we doing? Why do we, and for people who complain, like, why is Warner Brothers looking at cutting their gaming division? If you're David Zaslav and you see what your gaming division has been doing when they had free reign, you're like, why the hell do we have a gaming division? Let's just license our IP to EA, who will pay us money, and then put out games where they eat all that money instead of us.
Mm-hmm. And they'll do that with DC eventually. I mean, that's what will eventually happen with comics. If they don't outright sell it to Universal, because Comcast is doing fine.
Yeah.
And Comcast could take the at least $5 billion that Disney is going to have to pay them, and just turn around and be like, we'd like to buy DC Comics, please. And now we're going to incorporate DC into our theme parks. And we're going to incorporate, we're gonna make movies, and we're gonna do all this stuff. We own all this now.
I just don't know how the Six Flags contracts are written.
I know this. The Six Flags contracts are in perpetuity within like that eastern.
The geographic ranges. It's the same reason that Marvel Land in the Islands of Adventure in Orlando will always be at a Universal park and not in Disney, because as long as they maintain the rides and keep them in good condition and like put a fresh coat of paint on them, they get to keep the rights to everything they had the rights to when they got that deal.
And as long as they keep paying. So that there is an accountant whose entire job is to watch Universal's accounts, and if they are a day late on that payment, cancel that contract.
Yeah. Oh yeah, guaranteed. Because Disney would be chomping at the bit to put a Marvel Land in.
I know. I see people online.
They want Spider-Man back from Sony.
Yeah.
They want Spider-Man back so bad, and they're never going to get it.
Yep,
because Avi Arad was an imbecile.
That would be if we were doing a presentation like you were describing, that would be for En Vogue right there. Never gonna get it. That would be the song. that Sony would put in their slide deck to show Disney. Is like, you want it, but you're never ever gonna get it. Sorry. Like,
I would love that. I would love if every time they have to like renegotiate a contract, they walk in and their guy's just playing that. No, you're never gonna get it.
they're like, how much would it cost you? And I was like, it'd be like Thanos. How much did it cost you? Everything. It's like, if you want to buy, we will give you Spider-Man for $170 billion.
D23, man, they're trying so hard to boost that stock price come Monday. They are just like announcing every single thing that they've even thought of working on for the next several years.
Yeah, they're getting a little nervous about that stock price. Weren't we talking about that last night, Chad?
We were, because I was mentioning that Perlmutter said mid-70s is where him and his boy would probably be buying back in with force, because they sold out on average at 115, so they made a big profit on their stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And so at 75, if they invested all what they had gotten, they would probably roughly end up with about a third or so more shares than they had before to go after them for the proxy fight.
And if they came in with Elon Musk buying as well, which it seems like that's a very real possibility, they could get the amount of money they need to just do a hostile takeover.
The only thing, and I keep telling people on the Elon Musk question, is the only thing you got to remember is he's still trying to work through. Remember that Delaware court that voided his pay compensation package from Tesla from 5 years ago, the one that paid him like $75 billion, which at the time when he got that deal, people said Elon is, this is all a publicity stunt. There's no way Elon could ever reach the targets and milestones that were in this deal. And then he does, and then they sue him. Because I was like, I guess it wasn't a publicity stunt. He made it the most valuable company in the world. But
remember when Obama said that like you could never make the GDP like this certain percentage, and then Trump did it like in his first 2 years?
Yep. It's great. Oh, Kamala ripped off his no tax on tips tonight, so good for her. She added that into her stump speech to be different.
Well, you're not going to get any tips because you're going to be waiting in your breadline because we're going to be under communism if she wins.
Comrade Sparrow. But it's so the stock price, I don't know though, because all the movies were already announced, and so all we did was see footage of it. And when you see footage of that Snow White and you realize that thing cost, after all the reshoots, probably around $400-500 million, and will need to make probably around $1.3+ billion to get 1 penny of profit after advertising is done. If you're actually, and plus the main thing that's moving the needle for the Disney stock, and because and this is something I was talking about on our show last night, is because Inside Out 2 is making $1.5 billion, Deadpool Wolverine's about to cross $1 billion. So people, my co-host Slender was like, is that not having an impact? And I was like, no, because when they did their report, they had to tell everybody that park attendance and revenue was down, and that they expect it to be down for the next few quarters at a minimum. And everybody who watches the Disney stock knows that 70% of their profit comes from their parks.
Yeah.
And so all of these movies looking really fun, and having Mandalorian and Grogu, and having,
which nobody cares about anymore. That's already over.
So no movie announcement is going to do shit unless they do something that makes people think, come next year when Universal opens Epic Universe, for some reason people will be spending their time and dollars at Disney instead of Universal. And I didn't see anything at D23 that so far that showed parks being somehow magically better in 2025.
No, they're going to take a huge hit when Epic Universe opens. It's going to be brutal. And all the movies, it's like people are like, oh, well, Deadpool is going to make like over $1 billion. Okay, so Deadpool makes over $1 billion. You still have to take out the budget. You still have to take out so let's say that Disney makes, just conservatively, we'll say that they make $400 million profit on Deadpool. I mean, that's still crazy high. Let's say they make that. That doesn't even cover the budget and the advertising for this Captain America debacle that they're about to have. It doesn't cover the losses of Captain Marvel. It doesn't cover the losses of Shang-Chi or Eternals or any of these other films that have bombed. So they're not even covering their movie slate with a big success. Inside Out 2, does not cover the losses that they took on Soul, on what was it? Strange Worlds.
Strange Worlds.
Strangers with. It's Disney, so it could have been Strangers with Candy.
Aaron, did you ever read the interview with Perlmutter where he said he finally got fired from overseeing like Marvel stuff at Disney? It was
I know
it
a
was
little about it.
so it was Perlmutter was in these meetings and they would talk about how much these movies were making, and he's like, yeah, but how much are we making on these movies? And they were like, oh no, it's made $900 million. And he's like, no, but how much are we making on the movie? That's how much he's like, because he's a Toy Biz guy. He's like, how much are we making per unit? Like, what is our profit? So he's like, he actually started questioning, like with Feige and all this, like in front of Iger, like, how much are we making off of these movies? I know that they've made $900 million at the box office. What's our profit number? And he said that they wouldn't tell him. And they couldn't tell him. And I was like, and he goes, well, that's a problem. We should know this. And next thing he knows, he's like, I'm out. Because that's a question you don't get to ask.
No, you don't get to say anything in a Disney meeting that isn't positive. And that's part of the problem of their corporate culture, is you don't get to ask those hard questions.
Yeah.
You don't get to say, like, well, hey, is this actually working? Is this just all pie in the sky, or is there an actual, profit center here? That's seen as negative, and so that'll get you ushered out pretty quick.
Well, look at that story Neon from Clownfish has told about making a comment on Toy Story Land needing more shade, and it wasn't even he liked the everything else. He just needs a bit more shade. It's hot in the summer,
Which, by the way, it did. I've been to that place before they added all those like little shade zones. It was hot as fuck.
And Disney threw a bitch fit about him just saying it needed more shade.
Mm-hmm.
He said he liked everything else, just it needed more shade, and they lost their minds, he said.
Yeah, because you're not allowed to give constructive criticism that makes anything better. And that's why even at my very small level of working as a licensee for Disney and doing the Darkwing books, you can't push back on anything. You can't, there's nowhere to go. And if you have an idea and you're like, this idea will make money, and you pitch it, this is what happens. And you can talk to animators about this. You can talk to people that pitch movies. You'll be in a room full of executives. You'll get everybody on board. Everybody's excited about this idea. And then it gets to that one guy around the table who'll go, well, I don't know. And you will watch your support evaporate from him out, because all of a sudden, all of those cowards are now saying, well, what if this doesn't work? I'm going to be on the hook for saying yes. And so it's easier to say no, because no one gets fired for saying no. It's easier to say no than to take a chance. It's easier to say no than to try to be creative. And that's why they're creatively stagnant. That's why they're bankrupt, creatively. The legal department will... Imperatus, are you hitting the bong?
No. No, it's my fave.
Okay.
Oh my God. All right. So while we're talking, I popped up the Twitter to see what's going on at D23 now.
Uh-huh.
They announced an Indiana Jones attraction for Animal Kingdom, which... that makes sense, I guess.
We named the dog Indiana.
I mean, where else could you really stick an Indiana Jones ride, though, at Disney?
Is it just elephants? Are they just going to bring in elephants? Like when
I don't know.
I mean, zoo, and you're going to ride the elephants around, and like Willie Scott's going to be there screaming about fake bats in the trees.
I guess they're taking out the dinosaur attraction, and they're going to be putting something Indiana Jones.
The train ride that goes through the dinosaurs?
The one that goes like where you're time traveling and you're in the car in Animal Kingdom. It's not the best ride.
Yeah, but Disney's just going to be IP land. Like, who cares?
Yeah, that's been their path for the past 10 years or so now. That they've been
Avengers Campus sucks.
I'm sure it does.
Like, it is so much less interesting. Bugs Land was for little kids, and I had a better time there than in Avengers Campus. That Spider-Man ride is stupid. And just the whole land is just like a bunch of meet and greets. It's ridiculous. It's so boring. And sometimes the animatronic Spider-Man misses and crashes into the building and falls.
So that seems to be about par for the course. You see that one meme floating around about the Tiana's Bayou, and like at the bottom says, sometimes working.
Yeah.
Like there was this big sign, and it was just like, oh, Tiana's Bayou, blah, 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 in small red letters at the bottom left of the sign, occasionally working.
Yeah.
Hey, Share the screen real quick. I want to ask Aaron, because you're out in California, right?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Because if you can add that to... This is apparently the first look at the Avatar land they're going to add to California Adventure. And I'd like to know where the F they're going to fit that with where California Adventure and Disneyland is in Anaheim.
This is just such a joke because it's not going to look like that. There's no way they're going to do that. None
That's
of
what
these
I'm
things.
saying.
Look at how Tiana's Bayou Adventure looked when they announced it versus what you got. This is all pie in the sky. This is way too big. This is not going to happen.
Well,
this is
yeah,
just trying to boost the stock price. They're not going to do this anytime soon.
If you look at this artist rendering, you can see the people walking around that little zone. So I feel like wherever
Dad said that's actual size. It's just going to be a model. It's just, what is this? A land for ants?
Oh, he said that too. It's a center for ants. If this stock goes up on Monday off of this shit, I'm losing faith in humanity at some point, at some level, because it's like if you are being willful, like you have to be willfully ignorant to think this is really going to happen that way.
They applauded Bob Iger. The people that went to this show are willfully ignorant, and they're not the only ones out there. Now, I don't know if they're stock owners. I don't know if they buy stock or they just buy Disney merch and popcorn buckets. But there's just a lot of people that are just willfully ignorant, and Bob Iger gets away with it. He comes out and he bullshits every single time. He just makes a bunch of shit up, and nobody calls him on it. Nobody questions him on it. It's Disney is in big trouble. They are in big trouble, and nobody seems to want to talk about it except for YouTubers, and then we get called names by the Disney shills. But Bob Iger has got to go.
You know who else was an amazingly gigantic company worth so much money until immediately it wasn't? Was Enron. Like, people forget Enron had like naming rights of the Astros Stadium. They were supposedly a $200 billion company that couldn't be touched. They were the most amazing thing ever. Look at their financial records. And then all of a sudden, like, one person started pulling that thread on the sweater, and it was like, oh, they've been lying about everything, and it's all just been a shell game, and it just fell apart within weeks.
Yeah, I wrote in college. I wrote papers on Enron, and I studied them thoroughly. And yeah, you want to talk about a house of cards built on a pool of gasoline? It was fucking Enron. But there's a lot that goes into Enron. And what's funny about Enron, real quick, is that they were on the cusp of doing video on demand first with Blockbuster before Netflix did their thing. They were developing the technology first to do it. They were just too early. The technology didn't work. Just imagine if that had worked, if they had gotten it all to work, who knows what would have happened.
Well, remember Netflix tried to sell the Blockbuster.
Yeah, Blockbuster could have bought Netflix for, what was it, like $40 million? Mm-hmm. It was something ridiculously stupid low. And Blockbuster at the time was like, F off, you little piss ants. We don't need you. And your little mail order business, you think you're going to be something? Mm-hmm. And it was just like,
look how that turned out.
We can send DVDs through the mail too.
It's funny.
It's media of all forms is just in a sad state right now, be it comic books, be it movies, be it TV, video games.
I'll say this and then I've got to get going. The streaming model, when it was just Netflix, worked. And as soon as all these companies got greedy and they started announcing that they were going to pull all their IP from Netflix and that they were going to have their own streaming services, YouTube was the only place that you heard people saying, like people like us saying, this is not going to work.
It's stupid.
Yeah, this is not going to work. You are cannibalizing your business. Oh, you're getting rid of physical media? That's another sales avenue for you so that you can put it on streaming and like have like a monthly fee. And it's like everybody looked at that who were not these executives, who are not these financial analysts, just regular people like you and me and Drew and Chad. And they looked at it and they were like, this model doesn't work. This model runs out of steam quickly. And what has happened? It's completely collapsed.
You'd think they would have, what is crazy is that they could have just looked back at music and saw that exact scenario happen 10 years before they got high on their own supply. And do you think Columbia Records is still making money no, they're not anymore. Like it's they're and you're about to do they actually had an exact media model where this exact thing happened, and they didn't, and they rushed to do it. Like at the time I was like, there's three things that you're not taking into account, which should be clear in your business. Number one was physical media. Your Most of your revenue and profits actually came from the physical media after the movie hit the theater. You make a little money on the movie in the theater, but that residual like physical media money was what really propelled everything. And like you said, you're eliminating it. And here's the other thing. When you put everything out digitally, I know that it's verboten to really talk about on YouTube, but Jack Sparrow can have that available in 20 minutes in the highest HD quality you have it streaming everywhere in the world. And once you devalue your product, which is what streaming really does, it devalues your product, because now you're telling me I have access to your entire Disney vault for, at the time Disney Plus launched, $5 a month, which compared to what a Blu-ray disc, a new release Blu-ray was $23.99 usually at Best Buy.
Yep.
You're telling me I get your entire vault for $5, but if I want to buy the disc, I have to pay $24. I'm not ever buying a disc anymore as a rational consumer.
And they used to have you on the hook to buy a disc every few years, because then here's the Ultimate Edition. You're like, well, I gotta have the Ultimate Edition.
And then they turn around and then they vault stuff, and then years later pull it back out again. Oh, we released Beauty and the Beast this time on Blu-ray.
And so that's physical media they screwed up. The second thing was they always made their big television money on licensing their content to studios that weren't them. Like Disney would let, and this is why you didn't see everything always on ABC, right? Like the stuff would be on TBS, some of the stuff like Touchstone movies. They would let it, if you paid us the money, it would premiere on HBO or Showtime or Netflix. Whoever was paying them the most money would get what was called like I think first run cable rights. Eventually it was Netflix that was paying them the most money and was getting those first run rights. And now if you look at their financials, Deadline Hollywood puts these out like every year, like the most valuable movies. They do it like an NCAA bracket. And it has like line items for how like the end of, like Guardians of the Galaxy allegedly made 170 million in profit was their final line item. But if you read the stuff, $180 million of the revenue that it collected was from its Disney Plus streaming rights. So that tells me that was them paying themselves. That means Guardians of the Galaxy actually lost $5 million in real money.
Yep.
And it was just a movement of money within ledger of Disney itself that made it a profitable movie.
That's like you moving your money from your right pocket to your left pocket and saying,
"Yeah,
I made money."
Well, they're doing the same thing now with Industrial Light and Magic and having them do the special effects, and
that's what I was telling.
They own that, and now they can turn around and go to a place where they can get a tax break for that. It's like
that's my money laundering theory of what they're doing. They inflate the cost of their special effects through ILM, and then they collect more in tax credit, and so it's a lot of, it gives them a lot of ability to do things on paper.
A lot of shady bookkeeping. All right, guys, it's been fun, but I do have to leave.
Give everybody a good rundown of what's going to be going on with the Kickstarter or however you're doing.
Oh yeah, guys, if you're interested in Kneel Before Doomface or finding out more, or signing up for the mailing list, just send an email to kneelbeforedoomface@gmail.com. We're still working on the pre-launch page, and that'll be up soon. But you can email Doomface directly and get a response from either him or Lexi to let you know that you have been signed up for the mailing list, which will give you access to not only exclusive content but exclusive perks when the campaign goes live.
Excellent. Looking forward to seeing more of the art and more of what you got going on with this. You've caught my attention with this from the first time I saw images of it. I was like, okay, that's different.
It's always fun when someone discovers it for the first time, or when we're on Aficionados where we've talked about it a million times, and someone in the chat will be like, "What is that artwork behind Aaron?"
Yeah,
and you're like, "How do you not know this? Like we talk about this ad nauseum on the stream."
Yeah, but no, I'm glad it's
that part.
Very glad it's moving along at a good pace. I mentioned to you a few months back if you wanted to talk about it, you're like, nope, not quite ready yet. And now
it's funny. I started talking about it silly because Aaron Lepresti was like, "You got to start talking about it now," because I would have been quiet for another couple of months.
Right.
He's like, no, he's like, "You got to start talking about it now," and so we did, and actually that was advantageous because if I hadn't, things wouldn't have happened. Like I wouldn't have this Kenneth Rocafort piece, or I wouldn't have some people that have actually signed up to do stuff for it. So Aaron Lepresti was right. So go give him his kudos.
Yeah, and then once you're a little further along in the project here, I'll definitely have you on again so you can remind people about it and show everybody what you got going on at the next stage. And
when we launch, YouTube's going to be sick of me. Like I'm just going to be on every channel, like talking.
Yeah, well, there's
yeah, you'll be a Friday night on me and Slender's show with him, promoting the heck out of it. We'll get you.
We're going anywhere that wants to have me on. I don't care. This is usually a gardening channel. It's fine. I'll come on.
Don't matter. You're going to be talking about my comic book? Hey, that's fine.
Doomface is actually a fun garden tips too, like
he enjoys botany.
It's like Doomface was a big fan of the British baking show, so let's get some cottagecore channels to put me on.
Get some mommy bloggers writing about it. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. You guys have a good night.
I appreciate it, Aaron.
Later.
Thanks. All right.
So, what's going on with your book there, Drew?
Unholy Nightmare. Yeah, we launched Unholy Nightmare last October, and it was successfully crowdfunded, and we are finishing up the book right now. It was a case where we didn't have the book done beforehand. We wanted to see if it was going to be successful. We didn't know. Aurelio Mazzara, the co-creator and artist, he finished up the last of the pages. It's in the editing phase right now. Aaron has got his couple notes. Then after that, we should be going to print and fulfillment next month because we got big plans in October.
Nice.
We got big plans in October, specifically at New York Comic Con. Hopefully, a big announcement. But we're taking things as they go. So hopefully, after the fulfillment next month, we can. I got a big meeting scheduled, I think, the next week or so. But some big plans.
Well, if that art is anything to go by, that announcement at New York Comic Con is going to be something to look forward to.
Oh, it is. And the crazy thing, like Aaron wasn't kidding. Like I've already written the first 12 issues of Unholy Nightmare. So I've already got the first 2 arcs already written out.
Nice.
And yeah, they're ready to go. I've done 10-page side stories as well. The art's already done on that. And I got 2 that are going to be in production soon. So there's going to be plenty of stories in this universe to tell. And not going to be ending anytime soon.
That's always good having yourself, a few arcs written out so you can just, here you go, the first book sold, here comes the next few, or however many the arc will take place over. And just
and it's like I don't want them to be waiting on me. It's like
yeah.
I'm ready to go.
Right. Now it's just a matter of getting everything else to fall in place. And once you get the first couple out, I'm sure it'll start happening a lot smoother and a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we have in store for New York Comic Con, it should give us an even broader reach for new customers.
Oh yeah,
I
would imagine so. Yeah, I mean that should, with any luck, bring a whole lot of new eyes onto that, to both properties.
Yeah, because it's you think everyone will have seen your stuff, but then you're still amazed by certain people in the comic book industry who've never seen that book or never heard of the stuff. It's like, and then they check it out. It's like, oh wow, this is interesting. I've never seen this. I'm like, I don't know. I'm blasting it out on Facebook, however often I can, or on YouTube. Yeah. So like I said, we can't talk about it just yet because so much will be announced for New York Comic Con. Not just one for me, but there will be, I think, 2 other titles to announce at New York Comic Con.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to see some people stepping up and giving the big 2, a run for their money.
Yeah, that's the goal. It's like my goal, because I've been reading most of it crap for the last 3 years, and a lot of it, I just say to myself, I can do so much better than this.
I think a lot of people are starting to say that nowadays.
Yeah, they are, and a lot of people are showing them like, hey, we are doing it better than you. And I really think that with the titles I have coming out, and as well as Aaron with Kneel Before Doomface, we're going to be showing them, hey, these guys are killing it. These guys know how to tell fun and engaging creative stories.
Yeah, that's definitely fun. Is definitely something that's lacking both in comic
Yeah.
books and certain other entertainment media, like video games. Who thought the idea of taking fun out of video games would be a brilliant idea?
Yeah, isn't that supposed to? It's like comic books and video games are supposed to be escapism. It's like you're supposed to
Yeah.
have fun. That's where the point of escapism. And yeah, apparently, no, you can't have that. No fun in your escapism.
Because I grew up, I always preferred the team books. JLA, the Avengers, X-Men, because more characters, more stuff to see, more dynamics going on between characters, and every single one of the team books nowadays is just awful.
Yeah, a lot of them. I mean, like specifically, a lot of the recent relaunched X-Men books, they're just sitting around, talking, eating, drinking. You may get a page, 2 pages of action, and that is it. And I unfortunately cannot operate on that mindset.
Neither could I.
My comics, at least, I mean, almost half the page count, total page count is action. So like if it's a 22-page comic, you're going to get, 11 pages, 12 pages of total action in the book, if not more.
Because like with the JLA, everything turned into some universal, multiversal level event, even within their own book. It's like, I get they're like the strongest heroes, quote unquote, in the DC universe, but really? Everything has to be multiversal ending without it, even when it's not a crossover event. Like, really?
And it's like when you get to that point, it's hard to really grasp it. If you keep upping the stakes, it's like I can't really grasp the seriousness of this anymore because it's gotten so ludicrous. It's to the point where it's like when you get to that point, you've got to bring it back down to earth to have leveled threats out. It's kind of like I agree to the James Bond franchise. As soon as they went to the moon, so they went to space with Moonraker, it's like, okay, we got to bring it back down to earth. We got to bring it back down to a nominal, understandable level threat. That's where you got For Your Eyes Only, which in my opinion is one of the better Bond films. And from there, yeah, you can steadily up the threat. But yeah, it's when you get to that point, it's like you got to bring it back down to earth.
Yeah, you can't just keep stacking on top of what you've already been doing. It's like, yeah, okay, so this is a galaxy-ending event. Now it's a universe-ending threat. Okay, we did that. Now it's a yeah. Like, okay, come on. It's like I said this. I think it might have been Chad's podcast a few weeks back, or it was maybe one of the other streams I do on Mondays on that 70s Rock Fans channel. It's like I had an idea for a story I wanted to do, and I was figuring out what format I was going to do it in, like, short story, comic book, graphic novel, whatever. And then Marvel with their multiversal shit. I'm like, well, that's not going to work now because people are tired of this. Doesn't matter if it's well written; they're going to hear multiverse and just be like, nope.
I never ever thought I would live in an age now. It's like for the longest time, the only shows that really dealt with like a multiverse was like Sliders, and that was back in the early '90s. And now it's like, in the early 2016 and on. The fact that more and more shows are incorporating like a multiverse, I'm like, I never thought I'd live in a day and age when TV shows.
Lazy. It's a lazy writing trope at this point. Because we want to do this. Well, that doesn't fit continuity. Multiverse, we can cram it in there, and it'll make sense because it has to.
The multiverse and time travel are the worst things to add into your story because you're gonna it's a crutch that lets you just fix whatever you want with no thought. Basically, you're like Bill and Ted, like, after we win, we'll go back and put the keys here. It'll be fine. It's like...
it's like, and honestly, with a lot of the stories I write, if things are going to be fixed, if a hero needs to fix things, there has to be a cost. And there has to be an understandable cost. It can't just be a cost that's just going to a simple level thing. No, it's going to be one that's going to be felt in subsequent issues. Where it's like, it may cost a life. It may cost something. It's not that easy. You can't just do that. And unfortunately, my stories do not incorporate time travel or stuff like that. But if something needs to be fixed, there is a cost.
I mean, the stakes as a whole have been essentially written out of comics. Look at the X-Men and Krakoa being able to resurrect themselves.
With no
That
cost.
kills, yeah, with no cost, and it takes all the stakes right out of the story. It's like, oh, so this character could die. Yeah, who cares? They'll bring him back in the next issue.
Bullseye. And I mean, not just that. I mean, what's fascinating about the whole Krakoa thing is that they actually brought it up in one of the miniseries. I forget which one it was, but like how Nightcrawler at one point he had seen it as almost like a Sodom and Gomorrah, where you have these characters who are, for fun. A lot of the mutants are just killing themselves, bringing themselves back. They're all having orgies with one another. I mean, it really was like a Sodom and Gomorrah type situation. And what's interesting is that the creators, the X office, they didn't see the irony in that, where it's like you really have a solid story here, a solid Sodom and Gomorrah story where you can have a god type character coming in and wiping the slate clean of Krakoa for what these mutants have done to life itself.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they didn't see it that way at all. They didn't see the irony in that. But that's just me. We're trying to make a fun story element there, where it's like, but no.
Because people when the Krakoa arc started, people were enjoying it. House of X, Powers of X, and then it just too many loose ends, too many, because it was also only supposed to be for a short period of time. They were supposed to advance the story along, and they just hung at the pretty much the first story point, which is we're all on Krakoa.
Well, yeah, not just that. I mean, you had the characters devolving literally into villains. I mean, to the point where in the series X Factor, I forget which writer it was. It was one of the Stephanies, one of the Williams. I don't know which one it was, but they had effectively the mutants had made an ultimatum with nations where it's like, you're going to buy our drugs, our medications. And if you do not buy our drugs and medications from Krakoa, we will take out your nation's power. We will take out the government in power. We'll make you feel it. We'll make you pay. And it's like, you're reading this, you're like, something is wrong here.
Yeah.
This does not feel right. This does not feel very heroic. And then you had... sorry.
Well, it's okay. Because you also had the time people be like, oh, the X-Men aren't acting like X-Men. Maybe there's something going on. Maybe they're, plant clones and something, they'll go down to the basement somewhere in Krakoa and you'll see all the X-Men trapped in like these cocoons or whatever, kind of would explain.
I would have bought that. I would have bought that. I absolutely, if they had done that as our way to write out what had happened, I could go with it, because you know what? That kind of goes back to Giant Size X-Men 1 when Cyclops or whatever, they discover the X-Men are still like strung up, trapped. Yep. It's like, yeah, I can absolutely go with this, but they didn't. And they're still living. It's even now with the new run, they've left Krakoa, but they have not left Krakoa, which is wrong.
You can take the mutant off Krakoa, but you can't take Krakoa out of the mutant.
No, you can't. Apparently, you can't. No.
And you'd think somebody somewhere in the company high up would go, "Hey, all the stuff you were doing with these X-Men books wasn't selling. Whose bright idea was it to keep it going?"
What, you think CB Cebulski isn't, worried that they'll just turn around and remind everybody that he wrote under a Japanese pen name and was therefore culturally appropriating and has no grounds to fire them?
Yeah, fair. There is that whole thing.
He's controlled opposition within Marvel. I mean, I guess technically Feige actually oversees even the Marvel comic books, the way it's structured at Disney. So maybe if he's trying to turn around the movies, he might put an eye towards the comics.
They've also made so many stupid decisions, with the comics to the movies. Like right before the second Doctor Strange movie comes out, what do? They kill Stephen Strange. Before, it's like, why? You got a movie coming out. The first one did well. People are looking forward to this. That's before people realize, like, oh, everything's going to suck now. And you kill the main character in the comic books. There's not, you go to a comic store, you look at the Avengers book. It looks nothing like the movies did when those were out. Not even close.
So I have a crazy proposal. We do the Dallas reset. We have Peter Parker in the main 616 universe wakes up, the shower's running, and he goes there and it's MJ's in the shower. And he goes, I just had the craziest dream. And everything since One More Day has been Peter Parker's fever dream and
There was
gets
a theory
reset
what
back
was
to
going on.
2000, whatever.
There was a theory for a little while what was going on with Marvel in the 616 was it was Franklin Richards having a fever dream.
I could go with that. I could go
Because
with
Anything.
that.
I mean, hell, we could go back to what isn't Franklin Richards is how they got out of that crazy hero, like Heroes Reborn shit.
Heroes Return. They got out
Yeah.
of Heroes Return through Heroes Reborn. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so after Operation Galactic Storm and all their crazy mid-90s shenanigans.
onslaught.
Yeah, so how about that's we've done it before with Franklin Richards, but I like the Spider-Man one better because it brings us back to Mary Jane getting with it. Like, plus it would be such a nice basically FU to Quesada and all those guys. Like, that was, if you want to see where Marvel started making the turn to just pissing off their fans and giving them double guns of middle fingers, it was One More Day.
Yeah.
That pissed off a
What was-
whole lot of people.
What's interesting about that is that Joe Quesada was going through a divorce at the time, and he was incorporating that, his dealing with that divorce into that storyline. It's like if I'm going to be unhappy with if I'm not going to be with my lady, with my wife, Peter Parker can't be with his wife.
That
Yeah,
sounds
it's
like
a-
some Tom King bitch shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
wow.
Tom King does the same stuff in his comic book. I mean, what do you remember like how terrible it was when he bait and switched everybody with the wedding for Batman and Catwoman?
I
I
remember.
was at the comic book store with people I wanted to, and they were so livid. Like, they had been collecting, they were excited. They had like they were going to get variant covers and all that. Then the news broke, right? It leaked like I think the week before on Bleeding Cool or one of the comic news sites, and people were going at like the comic shop people were pissed because then people canceled their pre-orders and like they ended up having racks of that issue, and it was such a debacle. Like, he did more to f over comic shops in that quarter than any, I think, writer had done. I can't even remember a writer that had screwed over a comic store more. It's just, I hate Tom King, and now he's like one of their chief architects. Way to go, DC. That's gonna really help you out.
He with Tom, he is a writer where that he is. It doesn't matter. It's amazing. The people don't. The fans who like his stuff, they don't care for the characters. They like Tom King. Like, they don't care what he did to Adam Strange or Mr. Terrific or Mr. Miracle or the Human Target or Guy Gardner or Ice or anyone. They like his writing. And it's like, whereas to us, fans of these characters, we are offended by this because we respect these characters. We grew up with these characters. We see them as heroes. He doesn't. He just sees them as ornaments for his story, which pisses us off.
Yeah, I've seen that with him and the other one too. What's his name? He did Deceased.
How he keeps getting work. It still surprises me to this day. His Wonder Woman title has been horrendous, and it's one of those great mysteries in life that I will never understand. Just how he keeps getting work and how he still has fans. He still has a lot of fans who love his stuff, and I do not get it at all. I don't understand it.
In some cases, I think it's more people who are on the younger side of things who didn't grow up reading stuff from the 70s and 80s and 90s like people like us did. I grew up reading obviously, like I said, X-Men, but I was still, when I started reading X-Men, it was still part of the Claremont run.
Oh man, I would give anything to go back to the Claremont run right now. I would give anything to go back.
Even the Claremont run had some silliness to it, like the arcade issues.
Some silliness. I mean,
I don't know. Comparatively speaking to what we're getting nowadays out of stuff.
like, I mean, every fourth issue of the Claremont run was them playing softball at the X Mansion. It had time for some fun.
Well, yeah, and like I said, you also had the multiple issues with Arcade, who, as a character, was a silly character.
Now, here's the thing, is that if the Marvel gods, I know what it would take for me to get a Marvel book. I would have to accuse C.B. Cebulski of racism, and boom, I'd probably get a book. But if I did, I would like to get a hold of Arcade and just really just have fun with him being a legitimate threat. Again, just really showing him as a blooded assassin with his video games.
So they did what was it? It because it had Darkhawk in it. It was a crazy story where it was almost like a Marvel take on what was the name of the that Japanese movie where the kids are on the island killing each other one by one?
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale. Yeah, so it was Arcade was the villain, and he kidnaps like 25 B and C list superheroes, and he puts them on an island and has them basically engaging in a battle royale where only one's going to get out. And it was actually pretty entertaining. Like, because you've got all the heroes are like, oh, we're going to have to work together, until Arcade uses some of his, death traps and things and like straight up kills a couple. He goes, you're either going to participate or you're not. There's only one person who's going to live, and you can either leave it up to me, or you guys can be active in your doing. And then, of course, some of the more aggressive. It was right around when Hunger Games came out, so it had that kind of vibe. It was really interesting. They had like collars around their neck, straight out of like I think Suicide Squad, where he'd blow up their heads if they like. But it was the most villainous, murderous I'd ever seen Arcade done, and I was like, oh, I like this Arcade. It's actually like, if he actually applied all of his shenanigan games making, he could really kill people pretty effectively. And so that was an interesting series. It kind of lost its momentum and lost the plot by the end, like the end. I think they didn't plan it out to sustain it and how they were going to do it, but at least for the first 3 or 4 issues, conceptually, with Arcade as just a murderous, really bloody villain, it worked really well.
Something like that, though, doesn't sound like it should be more than 4 issues, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sounds like it's just, and I kind of miss those late 80s, especially like the 4-part miniseries they used to do. They did one with Longshot, they did the one with Nightcrawler, Wolverine had a 4-parter,
Venom. 2-parters? Remember when comics used to be just be 2 parts? And that was it.
Yep. I mean, what is it? The Days of Future Past was 2-parter.
Yep.
Yeah, and in the same book. Issues. 2 issues in the same book. It wasn't like you had to go and buy something you weren't buying to begin with. It was 2 issues of Uncanny.
Yep.
So I think, yeah, it would be cool to see that would be a cool pitch. Like, take Arcade, clean up some trash, basically characters they've created in the last 10 years that are shitty. I mean, I'm not saying Ironheart should be in it, but Ironheart should be in it. Like basically you call it
like a Squirrel Girl in there.
Go-Gurt Hulk in there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like whatever umpteen versions of Hulk, whatever umpteen versions of Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Like, you can put Silk in there. You can put all of the. You could clean out a lot of trash, and and have fun doing it. It would probably sell really well. Like,
the other thing I find kind of funny about the 2 big guys in the industry is, for the longest time, DC was the one that had hero families. You had the Bat family, the Super family, the Flash family. And Marvel never did anything like that.
Fantastic Four.
That was pretty much their only one.
Power
and now that's a literal family.
I'm trying to think. All right.
But if
I'm gonna as you talk, I'm gonna think of another one.
You also had like the Captain Marvel family. DC was known for that kind of stuff with some of their heroes, and Marvel really kind of wasn't. And now they're trying to do that with Spider-Man. It feels like it's like, oh, the Spider family. Yeah, that's not what people are reading your books for, though. It's people.
No, I would say with Spider-Man, it's more like if they're trying to make everyone see themselves as Spider-Man. They're trying to make a Spider-Man for everyone. You want a quadriplegic Spider-Man? You want Spider-Man with Tourette's? You want a Spider-Man who's got Lou Gehrig's disease. You want a Spider Boy? Here you go. It just they're trying to. It used to be you would be able to see yourself as Peter Parker, not at surface level. With these creatives now at Marvel, it's all about the character at a surface level and seeing yourself at that surface level, and that's terrible. That's horrible writing.
I feel like the hand-holding way to fix this would to bring all the writers of current Marvel comics in a room and make them watch The Incredibles, and then be like, "Hey, you guys are being Syndrome. When everybody's Peter Parker, nobody's Peter Parker."
Yeah,
that's what you've done. And it's like, oh my God, we're doing The Incredibles.
But some of these people would probably take that as a compliment.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Oh, you're comparing what we do to The Incredibles? That's such a great movie. Thanks for the compliment.
I'm comparing what you do to the villain from The Incredibles. Think about that. Process that. Internalize that.
The word irony does not exist at Marvel with any of these creators.
No,
it's not really realizing the damage that they're doing.
Well, again, it's like people have said it before, and I think it was even said tonight that they all want movie deals or TV deals or whatever, and they're using it as a stepping stone. It's like, with the way things are going in Hollywood right now, that's not a brilliant career path. Number one. Number two, if your comic books aren't selling, why would they give you a fucking movie deal?
Well, one thing we've learned in Hollywood is like people just tend to fail upwards. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone who wrote a shitty 3-part series at Marvel that didn't sell, suddenly they're given a 2-picture deal at Disney. It's like, yeah, that makes sense in this world. Why not?
I also find it funny too that all the movies people said would probably do well recently, Inside Out 2, Deadpool and Wolverine, and then you have all the movies that people are like, this is going to be bad. Use Borderlands for an example. I just don't think anybody realized how bad that was going to turn out. Because evidently it's not faring well at all.
Apparently Eli Roth knew, which is why he didn't even show up to shoot it from the back half.
Yes. So what's the deal with that? Because I knew he was involved with it, but he didn't finish it.
He's the director, and I guess it was so bad, and he was so unhappy with the experience, he didn't show up to do the reshoots or anything. He just bailed. He was like, peace out, I'm done. I'm gonna go make Thanksgiving and have a good time.
Why not? Yeah, that was a fun film. That was a fun movie. I enjoyed that.
It's just, it doesn't cease to amaze me. It's that someone, especially with these publicly traded companies, that shareholders haven't kind of looked at the dividends they're supposed to be getting and that they're not, going, hey, what the fuck is going on here? No. We need to fix this. What are you people doing?
So we can't keep wasting money. We can't keep losing money. What are you talking about?
Although I think there are some course corrections coming in certain entertainment industries, because, like you said, like we say, you can't keep losing money. You can't. You're not gonna, you can take whatever loan you want from whatever bank, but after all those start piling up, and it's like, oh well, we've paid about half of them off. Well, you're still going to be hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. Or hundreds of millions of dollars just flushed down the hole. I mean, did Marvel make a profit off any of the movies in Phase 4 other than Guardians 3?
I don't think so. I think
they probably got a check from No Way Home from Sony.
Well, yeah, but I mean, other than those, everything lost money, I believe.
Or barely broke even. I think Thor Love and Thunder, despite how horrible it was, I think it might have broken even. But a lot of everything else.
Shang-Chi lost money. Ant-Man and the Quantumverse lost a lot of money.
God. Films I never ever want to see a clip of again. And
what sucks for me too is I'm a fan of kung fu movies, so I like Shang-Chi as a character. I'm like, oh, this could be really cool.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big fan of the 1970s Shang-Chi Master Kung Fu comics.
The Deadly Hands
and the Paul Gulacy on the art. I was really, really hoping they would have drawn from that. We would have gotten like this, like a secret agent, like the secret agent Shang-Chi, it's stuff like that. But no, got none of that. And I'm like, this is a big misfire, big disappointment, and it just not what I wanted in a Shang-Chi film.
And the funny thing is, they probably looked at that old stuff and saw Fu Manchu and went, "Oh no." Or the Yellow Claw. And it's like, here's what you can do for that, though. You can take the Yellow Claw and turn that into the organizational name and not a person. The Yellow Claw sounds great for, an Assassin's Guild or a terrorist organization or whatever in the comic book universe.
Yeah, similar. It's like what they did in the first Iron Man film with the Mandarin and his 10 rings. They turned it just into the 10 rings organization. Yeah. It's like, sure, absolutely. That makes sense.
I mean, although I think it makes sense, but I think most people still would have preferred seeing the actual Mandarin with the 10 rings. Yes. But then again, that would have been a lot of money for special effects.
Yes. Yeah. And hey, yes, science and magic. Yeah. But that's eventually it would have been nice if we eventually got a true Mandarin. But I mean, that's a whole other story for another night.
They're not going to because they don't want China pissed off.
No, absolutely not. No.
Exactly why they changed the ancient one too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the ancient one. It's like, yeah, we're gonna get Tilda Swinton. That'll be a perfect ancient one. Although she was really great in Constantine. I love that movie.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
And I like the books and I saw the movie and I was like, you know what? Other than not being blonde and British, he was Constantine. He was a prick. He was grumpy. He was cranky.
There's no more character appropriate moment in any comic book movie than John dying and he did it righteously, so he's going to heaven and dropping the double birds to the devil as he's going up to heaven, and then the devil curing him and bringing him back to life so he can, because he's like, I know you'll end up screwing it up, so I'm gonna let you.
I'd also heard rumors they were doing a sequel to that.
He wants to. Keanu wants to do one. He said he wants to take another crack at it, and I'm all for that.
I don't blame him. It was it's a fun time. Like, you can watch that movie now and just have a good time. Absolutely. It doesn't have any, like, Tilda Swinton was playing an archangel and no one gave a shit. It was because it was played as androgynous. Like, it makes fun. It kind of actually makes sense, right? In that context.
They did a good job. I mean, the problem with the Constantine
Jaimin
comics,
Hanzu as was it Brother Voodoo, or who was he playing?
Papa Midnight.
Papa Midnight.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah.
And that's the thing is if you read the Hellblazer stuff, and I read that entire run, there's a lot of stuff they can't take from that because it's just too weird. and I get that, but the stuff, they did pull stuff from the books. And like I said, the worst part about it is he wasn't blonde and British. Okay. No harm, no foul, but it still worked. It still had that Constantine vibe to it. Even the Constantine TV show that had come out that had that short run was pretty good.
Yeah. What was his name? What's his name? Matt Reeves? Was that the guy's name? Played him?
Yeah. He looked like him.
He did.
Like him. And it's like, that's a Constantine. I mean, for the longest time, I was sitting there going, wow, DC's actually cranking out good animated stuff. And they were. And now all of a sudden, they're not.
No, speaking of which, I've really tried watching the Crisis miniseries.
Yeah.
They're fucking terrible. They are horrible.
I don't like that new art and animation style they're using, where it looks like Archer.
Archer,
It's got that super thick outline, and I'm like, no, this doesn't look good at all.
It looks cheap. It looks incredibly cheap.
I first noticed it in the JSA movie. I like the JSA a lot as a team, and I watched that. I'm like, this is just not good, but the art is awful. Because they were leaning into what was an evolution of the Batman the Animated Series art style for the longest time. They just kept evolving that and doing things with that, and then they changed it a little bit. And now it's like, oh, you changed to a completely different art style, and it's actually kind of bad.
Yeah, congratulations. I guess that was your goal, to keep pinching pennies. And
we were talking about this on Chad's stream last night, how there was that early mid 90s Cartoon Network style that was just kind of weird.
Yeah,
like Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, Jendy Tartarovsky, like.
And then, but it evolved from that, which, well, granted, it was weird and not always the best of art at all, or animation, to now the Cal Art style, which is like, oh God, this is just not, it's ugly.
Cal Arts is the biggest bane on animation's existence. That and Steven Universe are the
Yeah.
two worst things. And they're intertwined because Steven Universe kind of uses some of that Cal art style too. But oh god.
Well, hey guys, I gotta go. It's after midnight here. And
Yeah, I was just about to wind things down
Yep.
as is. So if you want to give Unholy Nightmare another plug,
yeah,
hopefully I did use the right name.
Yeah, you did. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Holy Nightmare. You can go to the backer kit right now online, just type in unholynightmare.com. It'll take you right to the backer kit to pre-order it. Or you can wait till New York Comic Con, get your preview exclusive. Or if you're gonna be at Chicago next week, come to Chicago Fan Expo. I'll be up there. I'll have the preview editions for the book. And so I will be out there and the book will be readily available.
Looking forward to it. And you're always welcome to come back on, plug your work.
Thank you.
I enjoy knowing that there's good people out there still making comics because they love comic books and not like, well, this will get me somewhere.
No, for me, it's all about comics. And if anyone were to say like, oh yeah, he was all about making a movie or a cartoon series, they're full of shit. I am all about comics, and I just want to make great comics.
And Aaron's a good dude. I've enjoyed having him. He's been on my channel quite a few times now, and I've always enjoyed talking to him. Just a joy to talk with.
Yeah.
Chad, you want to plug anything while we're here?
Just tomorrow I'm going to be on Brahma's channel with our weekly political show, The Bullpen. That's 12:30 p.m. Eastern time that we'll do that. And then our normal show with me and Slender on the Ascendant Art channel here on YouTube, Ascendant Art Podcast, Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern.
I'll have to bug these guys to get you on there at some point, Drew.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Yeah.
We have a good time on that. We generally do. And other than that, I will be on that 70s Rock Fans channel on Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be talking about War Games, the movie. Haven't seen that movie in a long time. Haven't even thought about that movie in a long time, to be honest. He has a tendency to do that with some of the movies he picks. He made me rewatch American Ninja.
Oh, that's fun. The first.
No, it's a fun movie, but it's something I hadn't even thought about in a while. I'm just sitting there going, huh. And I liked this as a kid. Okay. I guess that line from Wayne's World is pretty apt that kids are stupid. Other than that, and then Tuesday night, myself and Chad will be on, again, Brahma Bull's channel, probably gaming, playing party animals, and antagonizing each other like how only we can. And this coming Saturday, I should have something planned to a boomer shooter night that I've been planning should be going on this coming Saturday, a week from today. So that should be interesting to say the least, to see how people cope with a game from 2004. That has no quality of life that they're used to at this point. Should be interesting. We're playing Unreal Tournament 2004, Chad.
Oh, I love Unreal Tournament.
I know. I've talked to you about this. You're invited to this.
Yep. I had that one. That was the first time I ever encountered the Unreal Engine, and at the time I was like, "This shit is amazing."
Still is.
It's still the engine they use now.
So, want to thank everybody in chat. Soul Assassin, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you being here. Brahma Bull, Slender Dad, Davina Duckworth, and Culture's not here, so I'll pronounce your name right. And Pope Metallic is the first for being in here early. Chozo, all you guys, appreciate you. And I will be seeing you soon. Have a good one, folks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.